South Carolina native find herself on the east coast of Africa. Meet Kea Simmons, founder of Traverze Culture. Raised in South Carolina's historic Gullah Geechee coast, Kea turned her lifelong pride in African heritage into a travel concierge service built for the diaspora. In just 7 years, Traverze has successfully relocated and integrated more than 300 Black Americans to Kenya. Her clients dive into a 120-day integration program, from visas and schools to 3 personal real estate tours. And they also enjoy VIP health care through Nairobi. Join us as we talk about how she's building a life and legacy beyond borders, and also what lessons she's learned guiding families, diplomats, and even celebrities across the continent. Find out all in this episode of Black and Borderless. Welcome to the next episode of Black and Borderless. I'm your host, Kate Enderling Caribou. If you don't already know, Black and Borderless is a podcast that highlights Black change makers who are helping build a global Black economy. Today we have a really special guest on. We have Kea Simmons. Kea is the CEO of a travel concierge company called Traverze Culture that specializes in humanitarian efforts, relocation services, and investment opportunities in East Africa and Central America. And we're incredibly excited to talk to her about what she's doing with Traverze Culture and just talk about her as a person. Welcome, Kea.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So before we get into Traverse Culture and what you're doing with that, I'd like to hear a little bit more about you. Where are you from and where did you grow up?
Absolutely. So I'm originally from Charleston, South Carolina. Gullah Geechee culture. I always have to shout us out. 843 in the building. But I
Right.
was actually born in Atlanta, Georgia, so I'm a Grady baby. But my family is from the Charleston, St. Stephen's, Pineville area, and I grew up on James Island. And so my childhood, like many of us growing up in the 80s who were affected by the crack era, if you will. I moved around with different family members. My great grandmother raised me, and my grand aunt raised me, and then eventually my grandma finished raising me. So I moved around a lot between Atlanta, Charleston, South Carolina, and Virginia is my second home. So 757 in the building as well. So yeah,
All
that's
right.
just a little bit about my background and growing up.
So yeah, tell me a little bit more about your upbringing in James culture. Like, what was the most um, exciting, culturally, I would say, exciting thing about growing up there
Yeah, in Charleston.
in Charleston? Yes,
Yeah,
James Island specific. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So, the Gullah Geechee culture is very rich. And our culture is rooted in African ancestry. They tend to we have our own dialect, which called Gullah Geechee or Gullah, and it's almost similar to a Creole or a Pidgin or a Patois, if you will. Mainly when people hear us speak, they typically think we're from Jamaica or Bahamas or somewhere in the Caribbean. Um, but we're right there from Charleston, South Carolina. We're the only group of people that have that special dialect on the eastern shores of North America. Another great thing about growing up in Charleston is the history. Charleston, South Carolina was one of the largest slave ports in North America. And so while it was rich in that colonial history, it was rich in African history, and we were able to preserve our culture over hundreds of years. So we're mainly known for basket weaving, which is similar to West and East African basket weaving you see people do up until today. And when you go downtown Charleston to King Street and go to the marketplace, the flea marketplace, you often see families who are still basket weaving and have been doing it for 7 generations. Another thing with growing up in the Gullah Geechee culture is the food. Of course, everybody know us. If you know about the Gullah Geechee culture, y'all know we could cook and we get down. And a lot of our dishes are directly from Africa, whether it's from the East Coast or the Western shores of the continent. And one of our popular dishes is called red rice. which is our form of jollof rice, and we put sausage in ours, but almost similar to how Ghana make it, or a little bit similar to how Senegal make their jollof rice. We also have a dish called shrimp and grits. That's one of our staple, our seafood. Our seafood, we're known for our seafood. We also have a dish called hop and john that's similar to rice and peas that you see our Jamaican or our Caribbean families family make, but it's made with what they call here in Kenya cow peas, or what we call in Charleston field peas. So it's so many things that I could talk about the Gullah Geechee culture, but those are just a few that stand out in terms of when you are trying to immerse yourself into the Gullah Geechee culture.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. And we have listeners from all over the world. So I think very few people, maybe outside the US, know that there's this kind of cultural oasis, as I'll call it, in South Carolina here in the US,
Yep.
of formerly enslaved people who've preserved their culture over many generations and still
Yes.
maintain so many aspects of African culture.
Yes.
So I'm glad you're able to share that. When I saw that you were from there, I was like, no, we have to talk about this because this is thing, as we'll talk about later, connected to the work that you're doing now, right? And we'll talk about
Yes.
like what the roles are between you coming from this Afrocentric community, if you will, in the US and
Mhm.
now transitioning to living actually on the African continent and what that feels like. So let's go down. Let's talk about the most challenging thing. Again, I think the beauty is that you grew up in this really unique culture, right?
Yeah.
But I'm sure that you felt some kind of difference, between yourself and maybe others in the US who didn't grow up in this really special Gullah Geechee culture. So tell me
Mhm.
about that. Was that challenging in any way for you, or did you always feel kinda, like, confident in your identity as a Gullah
No.
Geechee
It's always
member?
been challenging, which is why I
Mhm.
don't have the accent now. I move because while it's a very rich culture, you know that the school systems and systems in place don't really celebrate African culture. And so they don't really, when I was growing up, really teach you the importance of keeping your accent, the dialect, of celebrating being Gullah Geechee and the richness in that. That came afterwards. And I'm like, oh, we do have a rich culture. I should have um not been ashamed of my dialect. So when I moved away, I got teased a lot because people didn't know whether I was from the island or from America. And when I would say no, I'm from South Carolina, they're like, "Oh, so you just country? You don't know how to talk." And then when I went to New York, everybody asked me if I'm Jamaican or I'm from Bahamas or I'm this and that. It just got really tiring. And there was, because of my childhood, there was trauma attached to me being from Charleston. So it just was a whole thing. And I just wanted to get away from it. And so even when I went to New York, my second home is Virginia. I practiced very hard to lose my accent, as you all can tell now. And when I went back home to Charleston, they was like, "Where you from?" I'm like, "I'm from Charleston." "No, you're not. You sound like you from New York. You sound like," you know what I mean? And now that I'm very proud of being Gullah Geechee, I have to try to switch it up. If I want to use my dialect, I have to, so I was talking to somebody the other day, I think at the airport, we were picking up a family that came into, and her family is from South Carolina, but they're from Sumter, so we call them country. They not Gullah Geechee. And so everybody know we got an accent if you in South Carolina. And so she said, yeah, she was telling her kids she's from Charleston. I said, yeah, I from James Island. That's where I from. So now I could put it on if I have to, but
Mhm.
it's definitely something that I am now very proud of.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I think that happens with most people, right? Like, you go through this, especially as kids. Kids want to obviously fit in and be among and feel like they're part of something, but you realize now, I'm sure that that's your superpower, and it actually led you to your purpose in a way, so
Yes.
and by the way, use the accent here, use your dialect here. I speak West African Pidgin English, and, there's so many similarities, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. I'm sure there's some words that are similar with, like, Gullah
I was about
Geechee.
to say, so where? Is it Liberia?
I'm actually half Cameroonian, Anglophone Cameroonian, but Cameroonian pidgin is similar to, like, Nigerian pidgin. So
Okay,
so,
so
like,
we'll
what's
see.
the word for child in Gullah Geechee dialect? Like, child,
This was who?
child. Or, do you know any
Oh,
words that are
yeah, yeah,
similar?
no,
Have
no,
you
no.
heard?
Child for us is churned.
Oh, churn, okay.
From
My grandma's
churn.
from Mississippi, used to say churn.
Churn, churn. What's your word for steal? Like if somebody's trying to steal something?
Chief.
We say teeth.
Okay,
We say
okay. There's
teeth.
like it derives from thief, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
them
So
churn China teeth, that them food over there, I ain't know why them churn China teeth. Yeah, so we say teeth.
yeah, yeah. It's a beautiful mix of like southern, a southern accent and like African influences, which is interesting. So like for me, my mother's African American from Chicago.
Okay.
My dad is a Cameroonian immigrant who came to the States in like the early '80s. So I
Okay.
have both of those kind of mixed and merged in there. So I have a grandma from Mississippi on my mom's side, then I have the Cameroonian side. So I definitely understand all aspects
I
of
love that.
Black culture in many ways.
I love that.
So great. Let's talk about your verse culture. I think we've talked a lot about where you're from, and we'll talk about how that influences what you're doing. I told you what Traverse culture is in my own words. You tell me in your own words what it is and the services that you provide for people.
Absolutely. So, Traverse Culture, as you said, is a travel concierge company that specializes in humanitarian work, relocation assistance, business development, and now medical tourism inbound to Kenya. And we do also service Central America, Belize, and Panama. We are one of the only companies that offer Afrocentric regenerative travel. And that's pretty much the preservation of marginalized cultures globally, while showcasing the contributions they've made. Typically, when you look at tourism or the tourism sector globally, when it comes to marginalized cultures and Black and Brown people, they're often not showcased through tourism. And so, what we've been able to do is to go into these countries and create what we've dubbed Afrocentric regenerative travel to be able to add value while preserving the cultures and showcasing it through our travels and our itineraries. But in terms of Kenya, because Kenya is our headquarters, we're headquartered out of the US, but we do have our subsidiary here in Nairobi, Kenya. And to sum up Traverse Culture, we are a concierge company in every aspect of services that we provide. We want to make sure that we can give people who look like us services that they deserve at a premium experience. I think that we're not often privy to experience, right, as a group of people. And so essentially, that is what Traverse Culture is and what we want to be for our potential clients.
And you mentioned that Kenya is kind of your, let's call your African headquarters, right? You're
Yes.
technically, the US is your headquarters here or a place in the US. But why Kenya? Of all the 56 countries in Africa, why that particular nation?
Yeah, I get this asked all the time, and my answer is always going to be the people. The people is what make Kenya such a beautiful place and magical. It is a soft landing. Um, of course, it's the infrastructure. The very metropolitan city of Nairobi is one of the fastest growing cities on the continent, but you can't beat the people. Kenyans are some of the most hospitable people you ever meet in your life. Welcoming, warm, very reserved, not aggressive. And so it's easier to be in a country where you can kind of just there's a soft landing, they welcome you, they automatically think you're Kenyan. So if they walk up to you, they're gonna automatically speak Swahili to you. And you can literally tell them 1,000 times, no, I'm like from America, America for real. Like my mom is not Kenyan, my dad is not, and they still gonna think you Kenyan. So, that's something that you can't even buy to blend in and not have to deal with racism and biases. And the majority of the people in Kenya are Kenyans that run the show. And so the beauty in just dealing with people who look like you that control everything is definitely something priceless.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I see that and I get that. The little experience I've had with Kenyans here in the US, I can vouch for that for sure. Um, so tell me about, just kind of paint for our listeners, how your services come to life. If you can
Yeah.
give me you mentioned medical tourism,
Mhm.
you mentioned like, just resettlement. I'm guessing like that's like corporate or professional resettlement of people who want to resettle in Kenya. Give me an example of like a recent service you provided for someone so we can get an idea of like what that looks like.
Absolutely. And so we just recently um relocated a diplomat, actually. She is the daughter of the former president of Malawi, and the niece of the president of Malawi now. And we relocated her from South Africa to Kenya. And she was able to participate in our 60-day program. So we do have a 120-day relocation integration program. Here in Nairobi, we also service Mombasa and Kisumu. Most of our clients are settling here in Nairobi. We do have a client that we're relocating in October that have opted to be relocated to Malindi. So that's the coastal area of Kenya, which makes Kenya even beautiful because you can hop on a plane 55 minutes and leave from the metropolis of Nairobi right there in the beach in less than an hour. But we relocated her from South Africa to Kenya. We were able to put her on a temporary housing during our 30-day relocation integration uh, calendar that we do when you arrive. So we're not just a company that will take care of your international flights, your household goods shipment, enrolling your children in school. These are some of the services that we identify prior to you coming, that first 30 days until you arrive on the ground. But while you're in the ground, we integrate you into certain areas in which we believe will be valuable for you to fully integrate into the community here in Kenya. So we talk about political awareness, social awareness, the justice system. We take you to the police station and sit you down with the director, go over how to fill out a police report, who you should report a crime to, so on and so forth, so that you feel one safe and you know actual the laws and how they work here, how to obtain a lawyer, what court system, how does the court system work. That we have a very robust VIP healthcare plan. We are in partnership with the first company, or let's say African American company, to sign a contract with the number one hospital in East and Central Africa, the Nairobi Hospital, where we take you on a VIP tour of the hospital. We connect you with primary care doctor, any specialty needs you need. We also help you obtain local health insurance that is amazingly affordable. We help you with driver's lessons and licenses. We help you find permanent houses. So we do 3 real estate tours between 9 to 15 properties. It's a very robust program in regards to our relocation program. And so our client was able to do all of those things. And now she's permanently here in Kenya. We also take care of your immigration needs and so on and so forth.
Wow, yeah, it's even more robust than I even thought or that I even just from the research that I've done, so I'm glad you laid that out. That's quite a bit, because, yeah, I think we often, envision travel concierge services. Yeah, you help me with, travel documents.
Yes.
I get there and maybe for the first, 10 to 15 days, you help me find a place to live, and I'm kind of on my own.
Mhm.
So, I'm kind of, intrigued by this kind of more thorough resettlement, plan that you guys have. That's pretty thorough. It's quite robust indeed. That's pretty
Yes.
cool.
Thank you.
So let's, take a step back a little bit and talk about why you even started Traverse Culture. So was it a single moment or a collection of experiences that brought this idea to life?
Yeah, I think so I'm ex-military US Army. I did 5 years in the US Army and then I got out and I did 7.5 years of civilian contracting. And so between that time, once I got out the military, I started traveling a lot. And so I've been to 46 countries and I've lived in eight of them now. And so traveling all over the world and being able to learn different cultures and engage with different type of people and different tax brackets because you just learn so much through travel. I what I did not see was a lot of us traveling. I think we've just started travel maybe in the last 5 years, getting outside of our box in terms of, everybody went to the Caribbeans, everybody been to Mexico, everybody been to Puerto Rico and Hawaii. But you didn't really see people really go outside that box until I think the last, let's say 5 to 10 years. And so for me, I wanted to be able to offer a service to people who look like me or whomever, but especially people who look like me who did not see themselves internationally. us Black Americans, we often don't see ourselves internationally. So I wanted to make that something as a reality for us. And so I started my first company, co-founded the first company, Worldviews. And through Worldviews, we've been able to bring over 300 African Americans to the continent and the Caribbeans, and then rebrand into Traverse Culture. So that's kind of how that started.
So speaking of Black Americans, you pointed out something there that I think has been talked about, I think recently in the press, which is the internalization. Let me try that word again.
Mhm.
Internalization
Mhm.
of, Black people, Black Americans traveling more, leaving the US. Like you said, the Caribbean was a kind of the gateway travel, you know, destination for many Black Americans. But now they're branching out. What do you think is bringing about this kind of like renaissance in travel for Black Americans? What has changed in the last 5 to 10 years?
Social media. Social
Yeah.
media has made the world much smaller. And so where back in the day, people would have to write and have pen pals and send postcards, you know. The social media changed the world. And so you literally can be in your hotel room or your home in, Seattle, Washington, and connect with somebody in Hong Kong. You know what I mean? And you don't seem like you're miles away from each other because of social media and the internet. So I think a lot of us are starting to branch out because we're not in these echo chambers that we create. Now the echo chamber have became your algorithm. And so it just depends on what you watch on social media, but for the most part, you may see something about Africa or something about Costa Rica, or you may see something about going to India or Thailand through your algorithm. But I definitely think it's social media for sure.
Another thing that I've always pointed out is the increase or the spike in migration of Blacks from other part of the world to the US. So
Mhm,
Caribbean immigrants and African immigrants, there was a spike in immigration like in the, let's say, early 90s to mid 90s.
mhm,
And I think lots of Black Americans got exposed now to more, African immigrants here in the States and to
mhm.
Caribbean immigrants. The Caribbean food, Jamaican restaurants are popping up all over, major cities in the US. I think that exposure to have helped. Like everyone knows, every Black American knows at least one, person who was born, Black person who was not born in the US, right? And that has sparked some like intrigue in, the world outside the US too, I think. So let's talk a little bit now about your Kenyan. First of all, how many people have you brought? Let's start with Black Americans. How many Black Americans have you actually helped relocate or travel to Kenya to date?
So we've helped over 300 African Americans to travel and relocate to Kenya, combined, in the last 7.5 years.
And do you see like has there been a shift? I would say recently. I'm sure you're aware, being from here, about all the challenges with DE&I, diversity, equity,
Yeah.
inclusion challenges that we're facing here in the US. Has there been any change in the reception to your
Oh, yeah.
services, like all the racial tension in the US or after, or do you feel like it's kinda the same?
No, no, no. It definitely has increased. We get at least 3 to 4 inquiries a day for relocation. In fact, our travel has slowed down and relocation has went up. So we've been our hot ticket this year has been relocation and then our relocation investigative tours that we offer. So that's something that we offer prior to you looking to relocate. If you want to come investigate, look at the real estate, look at the schools, look at the hospitals, shopping for a car, all of those things we offer in an investigative tour prior to relocating or making your decision to relocate to Kenya. So those two, and then the medical tourism is the third. Those have been picking up, but like we specialize in group travel. That hasn't even been a thing this year. It's been relocation for sure.
Wow, no, that's interesting. I wanna sit with that for a second. So relocation has gone up, and just like regular travel, leisure travel has,
It's
remained
declined
steady,
a
but it
little.
has
Yes.
actually declined. Wow. So people are like, "No, I'm going to go stay. I'm not just going to go visit. I want to
Correct.
go stay." That's really interesting. Wow. I didn't even think of I mean, I know I've seen a trend of people saying that, especially on social media, but the fact that your numbers are actually showing that through your business, I think is quite interesting.
Yes.
So let's talk about relocation because, there have been a few celebrities who relocated and talked about it and broadcasted it, on
Mhm,
their social media,
mhm.
outlets and things like that.
Yes.
I'm sure you know about the Khalees,
Yes, I met her. I met with her, and we had a great discussion about her relocation. Yes.
oh, really? Okay,
Yes.
so for those who don't know, for the listeners who don't know, Khalees, who's a Black American R&B singer, relocated to Kenya, and bought a farm in Kenya, bought farmland in Kenya.
Correct.
And she's very proud of this. She has been talking about it on social media so much, talking about her farm and how much she loves Kenya and loves living there.
Ye
But she got a little bit of backlash from Kenyans about her practices there in Kenya. Mainly, I think from the comments I was reading, the main thing they were saying was that the farmland that she bought somehow interfered with the pathways of wildlife that were in that particular area. So in a way, they were accusing her of being insensitive to local wildlife by buying this farm and basically disrupting the pathways of wildlife that lived in that area. So
Mhm.
that was one of many things I think that Kenyans were saying against Khalees. But the rest of us who were in the US, we were like, oh, this is a great moment. Khalees has moved back to Africa. She's going to inspire more people to do the same. But not all, Kenyans saw it that way. So I want to talk a little bit more about that tension. um, do you see that with your clients? Are they experiencing a little bit of tension when they relocate, from locals? And if
No.
so, how are you guys handling that?
No, 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 because we so what I always say is I do not promote repatriation to any foreigner, because if you look at the word repatriation, you would have to have been a patriot. And so even with that mindset, we tend to come into other people country skipping all the necessary steps to integrate. So Traverse culture, we subscribe to integration over repatriation. And so being able to have people integrate locally with the Kenyans, and then it's a mindset change when you're relocating into a new country, whether it's an African country or not. And so for our clients, absolutely not. We do not have that issue in terms of backlash or any tensions from Kenyans, because we make sure that we integrate them. And then my team is fully Kenyans. And so while you interface with me on the front end, on the back end, you're completely with Kenyans. My entire team is Kenyan. So you're immediately integrating with local Kenyans.
No, that's understandable, right? You kind of localized your business and ensured that it's not only supporting the local economy by employing locally, but you're making it more authentic by ensuring that the people that are on your team understand the local culture and can help integrate people in a more authentic way.
Correct.
But I have to ask, how do you and if you don't wanna talk about it, it's okay.
That's fine.
But
No,
how do
you
you feel about Kelly's, situation? What's your take on that?
people don't know what they're talking about. I
Okay.
met Khalees and I spoke to her. People make up stuff all the time.
Yeah, maybe one day we'll get her to come talk about, what she's doing herself and kind of get her side of it. I would love to hear that because I know she kind of responded on social media, but I can't recall if the response was well received or not. But, yeah, it'd be nice to really talk to her one day and give her a platform to really share her story and, her point of view, and maybe even bring in some local Kenyans, some people who were, criticizing her to kind of have that dialogue. That'd be, I think, a really interesting, thing to watch and see. So, let's talk about, reflecting and looking ahead. So looking back on what you've done and kind of looking ahead about on what Traverse culture could become, in the coming years. What has been your biggest lesson as an expat entrepreneur building a business in Kenya?
Ooh, well, okay. So we just initiated an initiative, the Journey Back to Eden, and trying to get certain entities to buy in has been a struggle. Okay. It's definitely a huge lesson learned. What we as Americans, or Black Americans, will learn when you, excuse me, when you get here. We come from a very aggressive society. Kenyans are not aggressive, and that aggressiveness ain't gonna work for you here in Kenya. They just gonna look at you like, Okay. And if you think that's gonna make something move, it's not. It actually is gonna hurt you. So you learn to kind of calm down a bit, and you learn how to be more akuna matata like our Kenyan counterparts. And then you learn the business culture that there's ways and channels that you have to go through to get the outcome that you're looking for. So that's kind of a hard lesson because you could lose money, you can get discouraged, you can be frustrated, but it's only going to be frustrating for you because it is all about learning the culture, integrating and working alongside them as against them and telling them what you gonna do in their own country. That ain't gonna work for you. So that's definitely some of the lessons. It's not that I was telling them what I was gonna do, um, in a disrespectful way. But the American culture is like if I show up every day and I'm aggressive and I do, it'll work. Not here. That's not how that works. And so that is hard to learn because you may end up losing money because you were going about it the wrong way the whole time.
How long do you think it took you to kind of pick up on that and learn that, "You know what? Maybe I need to readjust my approach here. Maybe this is not the right way to go about it."
Like 2 or 3 years.
Oh, wow. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
No, like, I'm talking about now because I don't want entrepreneurs to feel discouraged if they, especially Black entrepreneurs who are pursuing businesses, on the African continent, that if, like, for the first year or 2, you feel like something is not working, um, it doesn't mean that maybe your business idea is wrong. It could just be your approach, right? And it takes a while to kind of learn or unlearn things that you know. So that's why I wanted to call out that it wasn't something that happened overnight for you. You didn't catch on, in the first year or in the first couple of months. It took a couple of years, but you had to keep
Correct.
working at it and figure out, what's the gap in culture here that I'm missing, right? So
Exactly. And that's why we provide that business development piece so that you do not have to bump your head like I had to. Wow, my Kenyan counterparts was telling me, hey, that's not how it's gonna work. And we kind of arrogant. We think we know everything. And I'm like, nah, we're gonna do it this way. And they was already telling me. And I
right.
still went against what they were telling me. And essentially they ended up being right because this their culture, this their country. They know better than I do.
That's it right there. They know better than you do. You cannot tell someone about their own culture or what works in their own culture. They can tell you better than you can. So go with an open mind and go ready to learn and unlearn, if you're going to approach business.
Mhm,
Absolutely.
mhm.
So for you, what does success look like for Traverse Culture, let's say 5 years from now?
Success is helping as many families and corporate clients relocate to Kenya as seamless as possible through our concierge service. To also assist families and friends and travel enthusiasts travel to Kenya, help as many people, no matter what color, creed, or race you are, access the medical tourism industry here in Kenya. I think all humans should have access to healthcare, especially Black women dealing with autoimmune systems, dealing with a high fatality rate through maternity, um, dealing with all type of issues that are overlooked in the US and the UK. And so we want to make sure that we can help as many people in the medical healthcare and those who are interested in investing. We want to make sure that we can assist you as much as possible, as well as invite you to the Journey Back to Eden initiative, where you'll be able to access all of these things in one event with 200 plus people, like minded people who are interested in the same thing that you are.
And when is that event? When is the Journey to Eden event?
Yeah, so the Journey Back to Eden is December the 28th through January the 3rd. It is a 3-day event built into a 7-day and 12-day itinerary where we'll be having a business culture conference. We'll have a cultural expo exchange. And we will be having a New Year celebration and a town hall meeting with the Dr. Umar doing these events, and then it's built into that 7-day package or a 12-day package so that we're not just talking at you, but you're also able to see the great opportunities through these itineraries in one comprehensive package.
Awesome, awesome. So how can people reach you if they want to be part of this event or just leverage your services, the Traverse culture services in general?
Absolutely. You can follow us on all our social media handles at Traverse Culture. We're on YouTube, TikTok, IG, and Facebook. And then you can visit our website, tverse.com. And if you are interested in talking to a live person, you can call us at our 1-800 number that's located on the website or email us at info@tverse.com or admin at tverse.com.
Yes, and for those listening, it's Traverse spelled with a Z E as opposed to an SC, right? And that's really important since a lot of this will be audio. So it's
It's real.
Traverze.
Yes.
Yes, so it's important that they know that. That's great. So yes, you heard it from Kia. Reach out if you're interested in being part of the event or just want to leverage her concierge services. As you can see, she offers services that run the gamut. So make sure you tap in. So Kia, before we let you go, we like to do a little trivia with our guests. Just have a little fun with them. We call this little segment Borderless Banter. Again, we're still working on the name because we're but just roll with it for now.
Okay.
First, I'd like to know what is your favorite like food or dish from the African continent or the African diaspora? Like something like I cannot live without this particular dish.
Oh, what? I'm gonna have to say one of the Gullah Geechee dishes from home. It's stew chicken. I ain't gonna never
Okay.
stop
Tell me
making
about
stew
that.
chicken or eating stew chicken. Yes, that's the Gullah Geechee dish.
Okay. Well, what is stew chicken? Explain for those who don't, who don't know it.
So some people may call it brown stew. I think Jamaicans call it brown stew chicken. I don't know who the chicken and gravy, some people may call it, but we call it stewed chicken. So it's just yeah, what it is, stewed chicken over some white rice, and you may have a vegetable on the side, but it's a boil. You stew it and you make a gravy and put the gravy over the rice and the chicken.
Oh, nice. Okay,
It's
yeah.
good.
I'm familiar with brown stew chicken from Jamaica, so if it's anything like that, then I'm down. I'm gonna look for it
Yes,
here.
it's
I'm
like
gonna find
that.
out. So I'm sure I can find a Gullah Geechee restaurant somewhere around here
That's
and
gonna
try to
be
find.
interesting if you can find one, because our culture is so small too. So
Yeah, now that you mention it, I don't think I've actually and I went to school in North Carolina for North Carolina for many years. I don't think I ever came across
mm-mm.
a Geechee restaurant now that you mention it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's something I need to explore and look into.
Yes.
So let's talk. We obviously know that you're doing business in Kenya and you love Kenya, but are there any other countries in the diaspora or on the African continent that you would recommend that everyone visit before they leave this earth, basically?
Jeez, that's a good one. Ooh, and the diaspora. This one was gonna be outside the diaspora, but um, jeez, man, Kenya is up there. So I would say, oh man, I did really enjoy Belize.
Okay, okay,
Belize is Belize is dope.
okay. What do you love about it? What's like your favorite thing
What
about it?
I ended up liking about Belize is that it's the only Caribbean country within Central America. It's the only English speaking country, and they speak a Creole. So when you go there, you just feel like you're in the Caribbean, but you're really in Central America, and it has the best of both worlds. It does have the Mayan community that's still strong there, has the Spanish community, and then it has the Garifuna people, and these are the people that were originally from St. Vincent. And they were pushed out of Vincent into Honduras, into Belize, into Costa Rica, and some in Guatemala. And so the Garifuna people are African people essentially, and they have the best food. Oh my God.
No.
Right there in Belize. So yeah, those are some of the things that I really enjoyed.
Oh, awesome. I haven't checked out Belize. I will do that. I'm a huge Shine fan. If you remember Shine, the rapper from
Yeah, I met
New
him in
York.
Belize. Yeah.
Oh, you okay, cool.
No.
Yeah, I'm a huge Shine fan from back in the day, so I had to, I've been saying I need to go to Belize and check it out, so I'll do
Yeah.
that for
Yes.
sure. That's great, but that shows you're part of a community of, Black Americans who are obviously connected to countries outside the US, so that's really great and awesome.
Mhm.
Well, thank you again, Kia. I really appreciate your time. And, we'll be in touch and we'll, let you know how everything goes. And again, if you want to just drop that website and your, platform presence for everyone who didn't get it the first time. Please
Okay.
do.
Yes, so the best way to reach out to us is tverze.com. That's TVERZE.com. And we're on all platforms at Traverse Culture. We're also on X, so you can follow us on X as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Kea. It's really appreciated.
Thank you for having me.